Okay, good morning, Mr. Anang and Ms. Yudita, and good morning, everyone. Our from Group 10 will present final report, risk mitigation and good corporate governance with case study PT Sumber Alfaria Trijaya Persero TPK. Next. Previously, I will introduce our member group. There is Alif Nufitriani, Amanullah Baihaqi, Baskoro Aji, David Marcella, and myself is Iswatun Khasanah. The chapter 1 will be explained by my friends, Baskoro Aji. Next.
For background for choosing AMRT, the sector to be analyzed is the primary consumer goods sector. Meanwhile, the subsector to be analyzed in the primary good retail trade subsector. The movement of the stock index of the non-cyclical consumer sector or primary consumer goods sector has slowed since early 2021. One of the contribution factor is the COVID-19 pandemic. The Indonesia Stock Exchange or BAI, not the stock include in the non-cyclical consumer sector index record a negative performance this year. And this sector stock have the worst performance compared to other. Even this sector stock have the worst performance compared to other sectors. In contrast, many primary consumer goods companies maintain lower margin at the moment. However, if we're specifically one of the companies engaged in the primary consumer goods sector, especially the primary goods trading subsector in PT Sumber Alfaria Trijaya Tbk in immune the COVID-19 pandemic. PT Sumber Alfaria Trijaya became one of the luckiest company because it was still able to score an increase in profit in the midst of pandemic. Next. Profile of Sumber Alfaria Trijaya Tbk. Sumber Alfaria Trijaya Tbk was established on February 2002, 1989, and start in commercial business activity in 1989 since 2002. AMRT has been engaged in retail trading business activity for consumer product by operating a mini market network under the name Alfamart, which is located in various places in Indonesia. For vision to become a leading retail distribution network owned by the wider community, for mission provide satisfaction to customer by prioritizing superior product quality and always to be best in everything he does and always uphold high business behavior and participate in developing the country by cultivating and entrepreneurial spirit and build a trusted, healthy, and thriving global organization that benefit consumer, supplier, employer, shareholder, and society at large. Next. The current condition, AMRT sales increased year by year, even during the pandemic, based in 2020 annual financial report condemned AMRT record revenue or 75.2 trillion. The realization rose 395% year-on-year from the previous year, 7 to 94 trillion. However, in line with increase in revenue in 2020, MRT cost of revenue also increased by 344% to 90.41 trillion from 88.40 trillion in the same period in 2019. Then, to earning per share attribute to owner entity as of December 31, 2020 decreased to 25 26 per share from 26.79 per share in the same period in 2019. In terms of the asset, debt, and capital, it can be seen that MRT has increased in terms of asset and debt. The company total assets were recorded at 25.97 trillion of December in the date 31, 2020, up at 8.24% of total asset of 23.99 trillion of December 31 in 2019, with combination of equity increased to 7.93 trillion from 6.80 trillion and increased liabilities to 18.33 trillion from 10 trillion. Overall, MRT performed last year to date has been very good. Even the pandemic hasn't stopped company from making a profit. It is invented by the increase in revenue received by the company.
Okay, the next is chapter 2, risk assessment. Next. There are 11 main risks determined by the Alfamart TPK, include business competition risk, risk of failure in the development of warehouse or outlet network, and then risk of non-extension of lease period or terms and conditions of business space, and then business license risk is in respect of trading terms, risk of change to government policy of regulations, risk of dependency on the company logistic infrastructure as well as to third parties, risk of information technology dependency, human resource risk, financial risk, risk of livelihood, risk of natural disaster. Next. And then identification of risk using formal methods. A formal method used to identify risk is an analysis of a company annual report for 5 years or 2016 through 2020. The annual report provides information related to the main risks faced by the company. Based on the annual report, jury obtain a summary of the comparison of the main types of risk each year years as follow. For the example, shown in the table, main risk number 1, risk of business competition with the risk type strategy risk and axis 2016 through 2020. Next. And then the analysis identified 11 risks. For example, main risk number 1, risk of business competition. The risk is product similar to competitors and purchasing power decrease. The risk code A1 and A2 risk agent, the emergence of new competitors, ignoring network effects and slow internalizations and waste distribution, and the loss is closure of outlets or warehouse due to this decreased demand. Next. Next. The risk level is determined using the probability impact metric methods. The resulting metric is a mapping of the opportunities for risks and the impact that the risk process to the company goals. This quite contains a description of each level of number 1 through 5 in terms of severity of probability. The main risk number 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and the last is 11 belongs to medium risk, and then so the main risk number 1 belongs to high level, and then main risk number 4, 5, and 12 belongs to low risk. Next. Based on the above risk rating guidelines, each risk can be calculated using qualitative methods. The level of risk a company faced in determined by the probability and impact of metrics below. So a high level risk product similar to competitors. The code the A1 and then a mid-level risk decreased purchasing power, inability to develop network, and then failure to extend leases and fulfillment of requirements, and direct or indirect government policy change, and then malfunctions of logistic infrastructure, and then a description of failure of information technology system, and then failure to manage the company human resource, and then lack of adequate cost fund, and then a natural disaster that occur in warehouse and outlets, and then it's low level risk, and this is no issue of business license for warehouse and outlets, and then failure to obtain favorable terms of trading, and the last is material lawsuit that contain to court decisions.
Okay, and then determination of risk level using quantitative ranking tool. Okay, the risk assessment approach utilized is semi-quantitative. There are various forms of semi-quantitative approaches, including fault tree analysis, event risk, and bounty. The risk assessment approach used in this study is a semi-quantitative version of event risk. The purpose of the risk assessment is to quantify the likelihood of the effect of an initial occurrence. The initial events will be mapped against the associated action variance to calculate the probability when they occur or yes and do occur or no. The mapping is completed by identifying the impact of those occurrence and calculating their likelihood. The ultimate likelihood is calculated by multiplying the proportion of accompanying occurrences by the initial events. The risk assessment performed by PT Sumber, Alfaria, Trijaya using the event risk analysis approach is shown below. Okay, next. Okay, this is a map, a figure of event trees. Next. Okay, B1 network development incompetence, G1 failure to extend the lease term and fulfill the terms. D1 not issuing business license for workers and outlets. A1 failure to obtain favorable trading terms. F1 changes in government policy either directly or indirectly. G1 non functioning logistic infrastructure. G1, failure to manage the company's human resources. K1, unavailability of sufficient cash funds. L1, material proceeding to court decision. M1, natural disaster that occurred in warehouse and outlets.
So after we know about the risk in PT Sumber Alfaria Jaya, we can now know risk mitigation and risk register. So the first one is the risk mitigation for all of the risks in PT Sumber Alfaria Jaya. The first one is production manager innovate for products and carry out features marketing, and then marketing managers come up with new ideas for marketing to attract customers' attention. And number three is operations manager comes out warehouse management plans and makes SOP. And after that, operations managers are expected to have good relation with the tenants and make new agreements to benefit both parties. And then the company must audit the business license document so that it can benefit the company from the administrative side. And also the company commissioner should recheck the terms of trade. And then company directors must be responsive and can immediately take quick decisions in changing government policies. And then operation managers must develop operational systems effectively. And then HR managers must provide special expertise for information technologies tools and conduct prevention training in case of information technology errors. And then HR manager must have a plan to conduct training to develop employee capabilities. And then finance manager should make regular regulation and structured financial records. And then the company must do the work according to the agreement. And the last is company directors must be responsive and have other plans if a natural disaster occurs. Those risk mitigation is based on what risk the identification risk from the previous chapter. So now we move to risk register. So according to what risk mitigation is made by our group, there are cost benefits, positive effects, and negative effects. So for the risk mitigation in A1, the cost benefit is the cost is used is not too much, and the positive effect is improved company performance, and the negative effects run out of ideas and follow the short-term trend. And those and the other risk mitigation have another positive effect and negative effects based on the risk itself. So the next is the continuous continuous register, and from the risk mitigation account, it has been sorted from the most prioritized, and the company can take the mitigation decisions that have the most positive impact and can be carried out by the company. And by auditing the finance of the company so that the company does not experience mistakes and can manage finance properly.
This is a chapter 4. So the chapter 4 explained the good corporate governance of PT Alfaria Indonesia. Next. So GCG Alfaria Trijaya Tbk is practiced in the company referred to the regulatory framework in Indonesia, which include the financial service authority regulation and financial service authorities circular letter, which are regulated GCG practice for listed companies or issues such as PJOK number 33 or PJOK point 4 2014. Next. So the principle of GCG Alfaria Trijaya Tbk have a principle according to regulation number 21 or PJOK number 4 and 2015 as follow is: one is transparency, and number 2 is accountability, number 3 is responsibility, number 4 independency, and number 5 fairness. Next. So this is a good corporate governance structure Alfaria Trijaya Tbk. You can see in this, we can see a general meeting of shareholder on the top, and this displayed by two. One is board of the director, and one of them is board of commissioner, and we can see the below of BOC is nomination and remuneration committee and audit committee, and below of board of direction is president director, audit internal director, and corporate secretary. Next. So GCG mechanism in Alfaria Trijaya Tbk is the implementation corporate governance method is a procedure for putting corporate governance principle in action, supported by an acceptable corporate governance structure and infrastructure to create a result that meet the expectation of the company stakeholder as seen below. The process of implementing corporate governance is built within the corporate governance framework. Next. So this is the implementation GCG Alfaria Trijaya Tbk. So Alfaria Trijaya Tbk doing improving the value of general meeting of shareholder or GMS, and improving the quality of communication of public company with a shareholder or investor, and they do strengthening membership and composition of board of commissioner, And next, they do improving the quality of board of commissioner duties and responsibilities. And they do again strengthening and compositioning director. And you can see other. Next. So, what is the relation implementation GCG Alfaria Trijaya Tbk with our risk mitigation? One, the company is fully committed to implementing the GCG and to strengthen trust and increase value for all stakeholders. And number two, the company in carrying out their duties and obligation. Number three, the company also continue to review and revise existing policies, guidelines, and procedure for the implementing of good corporate governance. And number four, the system is a mean for anyone to report any suspected illegal behavior or other practices that are not in accordance with the norms and code of ethic within the company. And number five, the company strengthened its corporate governance to get a clear and firm implementation of good corporate governance. And number six, the company also has a code of ethic that must comply by all function within the company, increase the implementation of whistleblowers. The last, the company guarantees the confidentiality of information and identity and provide a protection to the whistleblower. So that's all. Next. So that's all for our group presentation. Thank you very much and goodbye.